Oh, so what have we learned from the previous two waves?
After spending over 3 months in lockdown and the vaccination program going so well, why are more and more people talking about the risk of a third wave in the UK?
The risk of a third wave, I think, should be looked at under a couple of different scenarios. Although the vaccination schedule is doing really well, we don't yet know how long those antibodies last from this vaccine. It's just too soon. And the reason why I say that is because we know from other coronaviruses that antibodies do decline quite rapidly with a lot of coronaviruses. We only know that from the first SARS. We know that from a really big cohort study in New York with looking at all the other coronaviruses, the ones that we don't talk about much because they only cause common colds. And those antibodies declined quite rapidly over time. So the question that everybody has is, does the vaccine deliver longer lasting immunity than natural immunity? And until we've been vaccinated sufficient people for at least a year or two, I don't think we're going to know that. The other possibility is, and probably I think the most likely possibility, is the variants. So the more people that you have infected, the more chance you have of variants arising. And given the fact that the virus is not well controlled across the world, there is a chance that somewhere a new variant will arise that actually can escape the majority of our antibodies. How likely that is, I am still sort of on the fence about that. There's kind of this sweet spot in which the virus can mutate enough to escape the antibodies, but not so much that it then becomes less fit and can't replicate people. And until we know what that sweet spot is, it's going to be very hard to predict how many other variants might arise, causing some of these escape from the antibodies.
So knowing all of this, how do we then prevent a third wave in the UK?
Well, that's the whole point of the vaccination. So the goal of the vaccination is to prevent people ending up in the hospital with severe COVID. At this point, it would be lovely if we could say that the vaccine will prevent everybody from getting sick at all or transmitting it, and the whole population will be protected as if we were all in this big bubble. I think that's a little unrealistic given the number of variants out there. The hope, and I think probably the expectation for most people, is that because of the number of people vaccinated, and particularly the number of people who are most vulnerable vaccinated, that a third wave should not end up overwhelming the hospitals in the same way. Now, there will be a few people who end up in the hospital, and unfortunately probably some people die from this virus, but I would hope that that would be a very small proportion of what we saw, particularly in January, and that most people would have what I call symptomatic COVID without getting severe COVID and ending up in the hospital. And that's kind of the hope and the expectation, given what we know about these vaccines. Of course, the virus may mutate and that may not happen in the same way, but at the moment, given the variants that we know about, I think that is the best expectation of what will happen in a third wave, if indeed a third wave rolls up on our shores.